Well, good morning, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'm Christine Robinson, Mayor of West Grey, and welcome to our July 28th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting. We are using, all members of council are present as indicated through their log-on. We do have a quorum. We are using audio only to conduct this electronic meeting. Video is not possible at this time due to limited bandwidth in some areas of West Grey. Bandwidth is challenging our ability to do a complete video broadcast, so for now, we'll be sharing today's agenda in addition to the audio. The agenda has been posted and circulated. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our West Grey website, www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by staff. Please refrain, as usual, from clicking throughout the meeting unless prompted. Before we continue, I'd ask Cody Hewlett, who is our Director or Supervisor of Recreation, to provide some more highlights with regard to this meeting.
Good morning. Before I begin, if you get disconnected at any time during this meeting, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID 813-6612-4163 to join us via telephone. Members of committee and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be using the raise their hand function to speak, using the green check mark to vote in favor of a motion and the red X to vote against. Each member of committee will then be called upon verbally to confirm their vote for the benefit of any guests who have called in rather than joining us online. If you have any technical issues throughout the meeting, you please send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, and I will assist you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. I very much appreciate that. On item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest. Members of committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest, direct or indirect? Seeing none at this time, thank you very much. Now, this is a little bit of an unusual situation, although very appropriate. We have a public meeting that is scheduled for this time. So under item 3, public meeting, I would be asking our clerk to read the motion and then have a mover and a seconder so that we could vote on going into our public meeting. So we are just adjourning this portion of our meeting, and then we'll come back, we'll reconvene our committee of the whole and continue on with that part of the agenda. So on item 3, public meeting, Clerk Scharback, could you please read the motion?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that West Grey Committee of the Whole adjourn at 9:03 a.m. for the purpose of proceeding into a public meeting of West Grey Council pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act to review a proposed amendment to the West Grey zoning bylaw number 37-2006.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Herger, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Herger, yes, I move the motion.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I'll second the motion.
Questions? On the motion, all those in favor, please indicate with a check mark. Those opposed, please indicate with an X mark. I'll begin. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Herger, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Herger, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. All right, we are moving over to the public meeting zoning amendment. This is our July 28th, 2020 meeting. I call the meeting to order. All members of council are present. Members of council, could you please indicate under item 2 if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Thank you very much. Now, before we go any further, I would like Supervisor Hewlett to provide information in terms of how an individual can participate, please.
Good morning. To provide public comments throughout this meeting, you can use the raise your hand function on the computer, which is located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Or if you have joined us via phone, press *9. To be added to the public registry for the meeting, you can send an email to myself, khewlett@westgray.com. It's KHEWLETT@westgray.com. I will also send a public chat message outlining that email for the benefit of any users who have joined us over the computer. Or you can also call our office, 519-369-2200, extension 240, and leave a clear message with your name and contact information to be added to the public registry.
Thank you, Supervisor Hewlett. Under item 3, purpose of the meeting, Clerk Scharback, could you please provide that information for us?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. The purpose of this public meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Gray is to review an application for a proposed amendment to Bylaw 37-2006, the zoning bylaw of the Municipality of West Gray, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the application. Council will not make a decision on the application at this public meeting. Based on the recommendations and information received at this public meeting, an amending bylaw will be presented for approval at a regular meeting of Council. There is a public registry located online with Recreation Supervisor Hewlett, and if any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on the application, they are to provide their name and mailing address to Mr. Hewlett via email or telephone for the registry. A person or public body may appeal the decision if they have made an oral submission at this public meeting or a written submission to Council prior to the passing of the bylaw.
Thank you, Clerk Scharback. Very much appreciate all of that information. We are now on item 4. If you're following along with the agenda, application Lipsky ZA-05-20 and in brackets B12.2019 end of bracket. So 4.1, application of zoning amendment. Planner Spencer, could you please provide an overview of the report? Then I will be looking to the clerk for the recommendation and mover and seconder. So Planner Spencer, please take it away.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, Your Worship. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands from A2 rural and NE natural environment to A2 217, which is rural with an exception, A2 218 rural with an exception, and natural environments, NE. The effect of the amendment will recognize deficient lot areas and frontage of the severed and retained parcels as a result of the previous application for lot addition. That file was previously approved conditionally under B12 2019. The recommendation of staff is for the file to proceed to Council for approval. It meets the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the PPS. It conforms to the official plan in general terms, and it also will recognize the deficiencies in the West Gray zoning bylaw 37/2006. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Planner Spencer, for that. I'm now turning to the clerk to read the recommendation. I'd be looking for a mover and seconder, and then we'll proceed with other elements of this agenda, please.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that West Gray Council receives the report from Planner Laura Spencer regarding zoning bylaw amendment Lipsky-ZA-05-20 in relation to consent file B12-2019.
Thank you. Is there a mover? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Counselor Hutchison, yes, I second the motion.
Thank you. Now, at this time, I am not taking the vote as per consultation with our clerk. We're going to go through the balance of the agenda in terms of receiving written comments and information from our public. So we are now moving on to item 4.3, written comments received. I note that two written comments are included in our agenda. Sharma, could you let us know if there's any further correspondence that has been received?
Thank you, Your Worship. There has been no further correspondence received, just the written comments included in the agenda from the County of Grey and the Historic Saugeen Métis, both of which had no objections.
Thank you for that. So now we're going to go to the component part where,
Can we take a vote?
pardon me?
Can we vote on receiving the report
Oh, okay.
and then go past that?
The clerk is now asking that we vote on the motion to receive the report moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Any comments on the motion? All those in favor, please signify with a check mark. If you're not in favor, please signify with an X mark. I will begin. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Shea, yes. And I'll just mention your mic is cutting in and out a bit, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you very much. How's the audio now?
Better.
Thank you, and I appreciate you mentioning that. All right, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor, and I did lose you as well, Mayor Robinson.
Okay, I appreciate knowing that. Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes. And yes, I'm also having trouble hearing you, Mayor Robinson. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you're voting.
Counselor Hutchison, in favor.
Thank you. That motion does carry. So now we're dealing with this portion of the agenda, which is 4.3, comments from council and public in attendance. So members of council, do you have any comments with regard to this application? And I will take any questions after you clear your dashboard. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Just a question. I note in the Grey County report, it recommends comments are received from the local conservation authority. So just checking in to see if we're expecting further comment from the conservation authority. Thank you.
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, through your worship. We have received comments from the Conservation Authority. They were provided as part of the original consent process, and an email was provided to confirm that those comments still stand and they have no concerns and are in support of the application.
Further, Councillor Hamilton.
Nope, that's great. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Councillor Townsend.
Yes, thank you. I had the same comment, but I also noticed there was a reference to the need to contact MECP, and I wasn't sure whether that had been waived by the Conservation Authority or whether or not that contact was actually made. And
Planner
that
Spencer.
was for the September 23rd, 2019 correspondence.
Very good. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, through your worship. We have addressed those comments and concerns with the Conservation Authority and they are in support of the applications. There is no further need for consultation.
Thank you very much.
Further comments or questions from members of council?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. May I proceed?
Oh, yes, please.
Yes.
I did call your name, but thank you for the clarity. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry, I guess I didn't hear it. So thank you
Okay.
very much, Chair. So as we move forward on process, typically I think we were able to receive the conservation comments, especially this application where it refers back to a previous application and we utilize the documents already received. In a future agenda, would we receive the conservation and the prior notes on this matter?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We did receive confirmation from them. The comments that you've received as part of the report are their previous comments related to the original application. And we did receive confirmation by email that they were still in support of the application and that their concerns had been addressed.
Okay, because I just don't see any conservation comments in this agenda related to this zoning amendment, but I trust our staff and we are in order, so I'm fine with that. I'm just curious, as we move forward, would we have all these links to past application or the comments? Like, these are the things we can't find on the internet right now, right? So this in-between time is just the challenge time. I think we'll get there, but while we're still working through these, it would be beneficial, I think, to council to have all of those previous documents that relate to the application. Thank you.
I'm going to have our clerk provide a comment for that, please. Clerk Sharbach.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. With the comments received with the original consent application were specific to the consent, and I think the agencies understood that there would be a rezoning as a condition of that consent, but we haven't received any comments from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority related to the zoning amendment. And the information to decide on the zoning amendment is very specific to that. The consent has already been addressed, so they weren't included in this package. But I think moving forward, as we have more meetings and more information on the website, it will be easier to look back. In the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask for any of those previous documentation pieces from the original consent.
Well, thank you for that. Any other member of council have any questions before I close this portion of it? Thank you. Are there any comments from members of the public? I'm looking for the agent or applicant first, if that's a possibility, Supervisor Hewlett, if you're able to identify that. If not, I'm looking for comments from members of the public, either for or opposed. I would ask that that as you speak, you identify your name and also whether you are in favor or in opposition to the application. Before I do that, I just want to confirm that you have clarity in my audio. Can folks hear me? All right. Members of council, are you able to hear me? Either a check mark or a thumbs up would be great. All right. Okay, I appreciate that. So before I go to citizens on the call, just double checking with the members of council. Perfect. Supervisor Hewlett, is there anyone online that wishes to address this application?
At this time, I am not seeing any members of the public who would like to speak.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on. I do want to say that the amending bylaw will come to the August 4th council meeting for ratification, consideration, and then ratification. So we are now on item 5, close this public meeting. Clerk Sharbach, please read the recommendation.
Through your worship, the recommendation is that West Grey Council now closes this public meeting at 9:19 a.m. to reconvene as Committee of the Whole.
Does someone wish to move this as a motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, yes, I move the motion.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those not in favor with an X mark. Christine Robinson, Mayor, I am in favor. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. We've now concluded our public meeting for today. And members of council, let's go back to our Committee of the Whole meeting. If you could clear your dashboard, I would appreciate it. We are now on item 4. We are reconvening the Committee of the Whole meeting. Clerk Sarback, could you read the motion?
Through you, your worship, the recommendation is that West Gray Committee of the Whole reconvene at 9:21 a.m.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Questions? All those in favor signify with a check mark. Opposed signify with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. All right, I'm just clearing the dashboard. We are now moving on to item 5, staff reports. First one, 5.1, Chief Schwartz. Your report is on the enhanced fire communication system. Welcome. Could you please provide information on this report? And then I'll be looking to Clerk Sarback to read the motion and ask for a mover and seconder, and then we'll address any questions that committee has. Chief Schwartz, please go ahead. Oh, we'll have to adjust your audio. One moment, and we will put the report in front of you.
Where's the report? I generally, when I come, I just grab a printed one.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically, give you a bit of a history, is back in the early 70s, the Grey County Firefighters or Chiefs Association at the time, Mutual Aid Association, went to a radio system. They used to use citizens band radios. They went to an FM system, which has been in operation since, I'm going to say, we'll just say 1975. So over the past few years, we only have one channel. We page on that channel and we operate on that channel. A couple of years ago, we decided that we'd all try to get a tactical channel that we get on scene. We can get off the county channel and use our own channel, which worked up until, we'll say, 2 years ago. So what's happening is we want to revamp the system. We're rebuilding it. It's going digital. So how the system's going to work is they have to replace, I would say, 99% of the radios in the county because they're all analog. They have to go to digital. So they're replacing all the mobile units, base units, and portable units with each fire service. The county is picking up the cost of replacement of the radios. We are going to have a yearly cost for each department, and it's based on the amount of radios that you have in service. Now, because we have 3 fire stations, our costs are quite a bit higher than everybody else's. For years 1 and 2, we'd be looking at $30,000 a year. And from years 3 to 8, we'll be looking at $37,000. The first 2 years is until the paging system is paid off. So your paging will be on a separate frequency. You will not hear pages on the radio frequency anymore. What's been happening is we could be out at a scene talking, and if another department gets paged out, they're paging right over us when we're talking. Where that leaves us an issue is if somebody calls a mayday call, somebody's in trouble, one of the firefighters, it can be missed because the page drowns it out. The costs that are associated with this, because the county's buying the radio equipment, are the overhead costs. There'll be 15 radio tower sites. Each one of these sites is, I believe, is a Bell Mobility Tower they'll be renting space off of. We have to bring our own hydro into each of these places to run our equipment. There has to be a building installed. Each system has to have a battery backup as well as a generator, and that's at 15 different sites. So this is what the annual costs are going to be. So you're looking at, as I say, for years 1 to 2, $30,000 a year, and then it jumps up to $37,000 a year. It's a much better improved system. You can't walk over somebody else because once I key my mic, it'll cancel. It cancels you. It doesn't allow you to speak until I'm completed. We have 2 dispatch services that run Grey County right now. One is in Tillsonburg, and the other one is Owen Sound Police Services. This is a trunk system. I'm not sure what trunking means, but it goes into the Owen Sound service, and they can actually cross over and into police frequencies if they had to. So there'll be an operating channel, and then each department that now has a tactical channel that will also be monitored. Owen Sound will be able to monitor all these. If I have a firefighter that's up in Collingwood Township right now, he cannot hear a page for Durham. When this system goes into effect, it doesn't matter where you are in the county, you'll be able to hear your pager go off. Basically, that's it. I guess I'm going to have to do a lot of work in the budget to try to come up with an annual fee. We need approval from council. We need 100% approval right across the board with all councils for the project to go ahead. Our last chiefs meeting, which was in, well, it'll be a month ago tomorrow, I guess. Our next one's tomorrow, so it'll be a month ago. And at that time, there were 2 municipalities that had not passed it yet, and I believe that's because it had not gone to council. It was West Grey, and I don't know if it was Meaford or who it was, but anyways, we were one of them. So then just brought this to you. If there's any questions, I can answer them. I'm not a technical geek when it comes to radios, but this is a far better system what we're using now. So any questions?
Well, first of all, Chief, I want to say well done for your participation in this project. It certainly will modernize the communication component for fire service. I just want to give a bit of a perspective from my end of things. So Grey County Council was asked by Grey County fire chiefs to assist with funding to assist in funding, but also finding a solution to paging and radio communications. The very fact that there have been shortcomings related to communications. So the shortcomings are interfering with the firefighters' ability to communicate with dispatch and also to communicate with each other on scene. This ultimately can create life safety issues and also hampering interoperability. I'm just going to stop right now because I want to confirm that you can actually hear my audio. It sounds really good. Yeah. So is there an ability to correct my audio so it seems a little more pleasant to listen to? One moment, please.
I don't know if I could take a moment to add to what you were just saying, Your Worship. We had a windstorm here about a month ago, and there were in the county and Bruce County, Owen Sound Dispatch had 17 fire departments out at the same time, and the radio traffic was so bad that I actually had to call dispatch and talk to them on my cell phone because I couldn't get any airtime. So that's just an example of what went on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that example. So I'm just going to go back, committee members. Grey County Council was asked by the Grey County Fire Chiefs to assist with finding a solution to paging and radio communication shortcomings. So that was interfering with the firefighters' ability to communicate with dispatch, but also it was interfering with their ability to communicate with each other on scene, thereby creating life safety issues and also hampering interoperability and coordinated incident management during mutual aid situations. So I'm very much in favor of this project. I think it does modernize what we're doing in terms of communications. In terms of how this is funded at the county, it will be funded from the Municipal Modernization Funding Reserve and the remainder through the Connected County Reserve. Participating member municipalities are requested to confirm their support for ongoing administration and maintenance. So that's what I have to say. I hope it was clear enough. This is an important issue. In terms of audio, was it working okay, staff? We need to improve it. All right, so that's enough said for me. While we're trying to improve my audio, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councilor Hutchinson here. Yeah, your audio was very echoey there. I'm just wondering if you're at the office, do you have more than one mic open? Maybe there seems to be a lot of feedback coming through. Just a comment, I think anytime that we can improve the safety for our firefighters or our police or any of our emergency services, I think it's a great idea. So I'm in favor of what the fire chief is promoting here. I just have one question. How does this fit into the budget that we had planned for this year, Chief, or going forward? Are we okay with budget? Sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
We are getting.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm using somebody else's computer here, so. No, I don't have anything in the budget for this right now. This was a hidden cost that we were not aware of until likely the latter part of last year. I was shocked when I saw what this hidden cost was going to be. So the county's paying for the equipment, but we have to pay for the infrastructure. And I will have to increase each fire station budget to cover the costs. I don't think I can move too much around in the budget. I'm getting feedback. Would it be better if I left the room with the computer?
I think you're fine, but please go ahead.
So right now, I believe our annual maintenance costs are, this is off the top of my head, I believe we're around $16,000 to $20,000 with the 3 stations. So this would be an increase of likely $20,000 across the board in the budgets. Any radios that break down, they're covered by the costs of the annual maintenance costs that we'll be paying. That's basically it.
Yeah. So does this budget, is this going to affect this year's budget, or are we talking next year's budget?
It'll be next year's budget. It won't be this year's.
Okay, so
once they get everybody signed on, they'll start with the infrastructure and getting things ready. And I don't expect they'll switch over to the new system likely until, I'm going to say, fall of next year before they get in. So it may even be the following budget before we have to, the 2022 budget before we have to come up with this. If I start budgeting for it next year, then it may not show that much of an increase because it's obviously going to hit the levy.
Yeah, definitely something to start budgeting for, that's for sure. Thank you.
Councillor Townsend, please. Councillor Townsend, please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I had a similar question, but from a slightly different angle. First of all, it's good to know that we are upgrading the system and that the cost won't be the full numbers that you have in your report. 2 things. The first one is that under the financial and resource implications, it doesn't show that it's a net increase. It shows or implies that it will be a full increase. So I think the report should be amended to reflect that. Second of all, it talks about a 10-year project, and yet we're only showing costs for 8 years. So does this mean that the cost for years 3 to 8 will continue through 9 and 10 as well?
This is, yeah, that one, when I saw their figures, I have a sheet with their figures on it, and they got 3 to 8, but they're talking about a 10-year project. So I don't understand where they're coming up with this 8 years.
Okay, so if that could be clarified.
I guess if you're to add, well, it still comes out to 8 years. So yeah, I'm not sure where they're coming up with a 10-year project, but I would imagine because it's an ongoing thing that in 8 years, they'll have to renew the contract, because those yearly fees for overhead costs are going to continue. So I imagine it's going to be a forever type of deal, you know what I mean?
Yep, okay, so clarification of that would be appreciated.
Yep.
The other thing, the report talks about 101 radios, and it talks about it's used for emergency management and works, and I'm assuming works means public works?
The system does not cover public works, but we have been using our radios. We have public works frequencies on our radios, so we can talk to public works like West Grey Fire and West Grey Works. It doesn't cover any other municipalities. We'll be losing that. They've actually cut our radios back to 67. That includes the mobiles plus one portable radio for each seating position, which is going to leave us short of what we originally had, 100 and whatever it was there. Yeah. We have 70 firefighters, and the radios also include the radios that we have through emergency management. We have, I think there's, say, 20 portable radios, which we use in the fire service, but if there was an emergency, I can pull them, and then each of the people on the emergency control group would get a radio. Those radios are excluded from here. That's why we're back down to 67. Plus, we had extra radios that they've cut out, so that brings the cost down. And as I said, it's based on how many radios you have on the system is what you're paying.
Okay, so is public works impacted by?
No, it has nothing to do with public works.
Okay, super. Thank you very much. That's
I
it.
just want to mention that one of the project requirements was to provide cost-effective, efficient system for operation and administration. So it was to secure a provision for support and maintenance and management and administration for a period of a minimum of 10 years, including a 2-year warranty period for all the delivered goods. So that is just something that I could sort of provide information that was discussed at the county, just to enhance what Chief Schwartz is saying. Okay, Councillor Herger, please.
Thank you. As a member of the Elmwood Fire Board, I guess I'm curious how this interacts with what Bruce County has, and if Bruce County was at all a discussion point about how they do fire over there. This just leaves an area of West Grey with a new system, but not necessarily utilized or responded to by the new system. And I'm looking for our fire chief there to just clarify any of that. Just maybe they're on the same system. What do you know about how this is going to interact with Bruce County's fire department emergency?
Please.
We'll be able to communicate with Elmwood as we do now. But they are a different county, and I believe they're still analog. There was no discussion with them about coming on board with Grey County. Their county would have to look after that. Owen Sound Dispatch is open to them switching to a new system. I believe they're still analog. Our system will be able to be digital as well as speak to analog, where if you were totally analog, you couldn't speak digital. That's, if that makes any sense.
So I understand that you can communicate with Elmwood. However, if they're on this older system, doesn't it present the same problems that we are right here, right now, trying to rectify the talk over and those type of things? You know, that create a moment of not being able to hear or communicate with another emergency personnel. So is there any potential of just reaching out to Bruce County and saying, we're doing this and it actually affects a region of West Grey and we need to kind of just have a better communique on that?
Yeah, they're on a different frequency than we use. They don't use the same frequency. When we do a call with Ellenwood or we have Ellenwood come and help us, we have to change frequencies to talk to them. Right now, they're not on our system at all. Bruce County's on a totally different system.
So we're already working with two different systems.
Yep.
Okay, and
it won't be the same. We have our own working channel. They have their own working channel. It's a different county.
Okay. Looking at the hidden costs as you described them, were the chiefs supportive of this initiative after the hidden costs were revealed, or was there request to county council prior to having to pay for any of it, really?
I think they were all surprised by the hidden costs, but if you go down I don't know if you have the same list I have. I was a little bit livid because originally it was like $59,000 a year. And I was very upset. I sent out some naughty emails to a few of the other chiefs, and the response I got back, I mean, we got one, like Chatsworth is only $9,000 a year, but they only have one station and 2 trucks or 3 trucks. So we've got 13 pieces of rolling stock, 70 firefighters and 3 fire stations. That's why our cost is the highest in the county. City of Lone Sound is only $11,000 a year, but they got 1 fire station and 4 trucks, and they've got on a shift they've got 4 firefighters. So
it's really just it's really because we have better coverage, we have more stations, that we need more equipment, more radios. Really.
Yeah, we're bigger is better, right? We're bigger. We are the biggest shareholder or stakeholder in the county when it comes to fire service.
There you go. Anything further, Councillor Hergert?
I appreciate the effort to upgrade the older system and encourage, just better emergency planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. And actually, Councillor Hergert, you answered my questions in your conversation, so thanks for that. So I just want to share that I don't know a lot about fire and radios, so I did watch a couple of the Grey County Council Committee of the Whole videos and watched the discussion and learned a lot through that. So I really appreciate how, just want to say, Chief, I really appreciate how the chiefs worked together and recognized that this was a problem you couldn't solve independently in like a piecemeal kind of way, that you had to come together and advocated to Grey County. And I really appreciate Grey County investing in the infrastructure as they are doing to have this real cohesive approach. So you definitely have my support. I'm just wondering, so is this like council would be making a support in good faith, and then later on we would have a contract that we enter into, or do we know what that would look like down the road? How does this get firmed up as we move forward?
Oh, okay. Once you pass a resolution at your next council meeting, maybe it's up to you. Then we'll be able to send that resolution through to the clerk at Grey County, who's heading this all up for us. Mm-hmm. And once all the municipalities are on board, then they'll go ahead and begin purchasing equipment and getting infrastructure ready. And I would imagine there'll be a contract come through that will have to be signed. I have not seen that contract, but that's likely what will happen. Nothing works without a contract.
So Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hamilton, it'll be a coordinated effort between our chief as well as our treasurer. And I also just want to say I really appreciate your positive comments with regard to the enhanced fire radio communications. I was the seconder of the motion at the county, and I'm here to support this initiative. So I think I'm also getting an indication that you're not able to hear me at this point. So we'll try to get that improved. But Councillor Hamilton, you still have the mic.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. And yeah, thanks for your advocacy at Grey County as well. And all my questions for now have been answered. And thanks again, Chief Schwartz, for your for making things better here in West Grey. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, just Councilor Hutchison, just a comment. Is this something that we could maybe look at in terms of funding, since the ministry seems to be dumping, well, both governments are putting out some money for COVID. I'm just wondering if there'd be any opportunity to, and I guess it would probably have to come from the county end of it, but maybe this fits into some of the funding formulas that are coming out, or some opportunity to grab a little bit of money that is coming down the pipe that we could put towards us. So I just thought to put that out there, that maybe our CEO or finance director or the county could look at, maybe there's some way of getting some money towards us.
You know what, Councillor Hutchinson, that's a great idea. We always have an eye out for funding, and I'm in communications with our MP and our MPP on this. So well done on the question. We will continue to look at our funding.
Yeah, your mic is not coming through very clear. You're getting a lot of echo there.
I apologize. I'm speaking directly into my mic. I think we may have to do a review of my laptop. It's been challenging over the last month. Anyway, anything further, members of committee? All right. So we did have. Let's see. Looking to Clerk Scharbeck to read the recommendation, please.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that West Grey Committee of the Whole receives the report Fire and Emergency Services, Enhanced Fire Communication Systems, and that West Grey Committee of the Whole recommends to West Grey Council that Council supports the Enhanced Fire Communication System as proposed by the Grey County Fire Chiefs Association to be funded by Grey County, and that West Grey Council approves the annual user fee for West Grey Fire Department radio communications at a cost of $30,017.92 for each of the first 2 years, and $37,222.22 for each of the following 6 years.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Says Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will move the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchison, yes, I second the motion.
Questions or comments on this motion? Councillor Townsend, I see your hand up.
Yes, I'm still going to support the motion. Don't misunderstand my question, but I'm wondering if when it comes to council, we could not have, or we should have, the numbers of increment cost to the fire service rather than what the fee is, so the council understands exactly what the increment will be going forward.
Is our Director of Finance and Treasurer on the line? And Director Mighton, are you able to respond to that? And I'll defer to the Chief as well, but I'm first off thinking it would be a question that you could answer from a finance perspective, please.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The comments made by the fire chief were that it's approximately a $20,000 increase year over year. But when I look at the financial section of the report, it doesn't indicate what the incremental cost will be year over year. And I'm wondering if we could have that at council when it comes forward for approval.
Sure. Yep, we can do that. Yep, we can pull the $8,000 that's included in the budget this year and adjust the total for the net impact in the first year. Yep.
Super, because I guess it's better to know how much you're going up rather than how much it cost, and from a budgeting perspective, although it's nice to know how much it costs for when you approve the thing to begin with. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions? And I'm looking to a hand if you have any questions. Seeing none. On the motion, all those in favor indicate with a check mark. Those opposed indicate with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for a detailed report. And we look forward to our enhanced fire communication system. This certainly has to go through council yet, but we're on the right track. Thank you. Clear your dashboard. I will do the same. We are now on item 5.2, Chief Building Official. So 5.2.1, the 2020 Q2 Building Department Activity Report. CBO, could you please provide a presentation, and then I will look to the clerk for a motion.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. Just wanted to present the Q2 numbers on building activity for the building department. As you can see by the report, the numbers are down, not drastically, but down a little bit, especially for number of units for the first 6 months. I will say that that's probably mostly related to the COVID and the slowdown in construction. And I will say that for the last couple weeks of June and into July, we have seen a significant increase in building numbers. We've actually, I did a quick look here this morning, and we've had 68 building permit applications since the last week of June and into July, which is significantly higher than we were last year. So this report that I'm showing is for issued building permits, so building permits that have actually been issued and are out and have started construction. So you see there's 25 new units, and we were 35 last year, so we're down 10, which is, fairly significant drop. But agricultural and other smaller stuff, we're right around where we were. I think a lot of we've seen a drastic increase in calls regarding pools and fences and renovations and small garages and those types of projects that people were doing either while they were off of work or they couldn't start any bigger projects, things like that. So a couple of small commercial projects, 2 renovations on the Durham Hospital. Telesat did a couple of renovations, and 1 new business in Durham. Those are the commercial and the institutional projects. I guess other than that, if you have any questions, I will answer anything I can try.
Well, thank you, CBO Shiprak. I always look forward to your quarterly reports. Clerk Sharbat, please.
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole receive the CBO report 2020 Q2 Building Department Activity for information.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Herger, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Herger, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
I didn't quite hear that, but are you asking me to second that motion?
Yes. Are you?
Yes, I'm in favor of seconding that motion.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, your hand is up.
Yeah, I have a couple questions here. It's for our group, building chief there. I just wonder how the agreement with Chatsworth is working. I understand it's like a 60-40 split in time.
So you just want to know how it's working out?
Yeah, just comment on that.
CBO, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I believe that the agreement with Chatsworth is working out really well. It's not quite 60-40. I mean, the numbers permit numbers are 60/40, but their projects seem to be a little bit on the smaller side, less residential, a little more accessory, things like that. So their, time is probably a little, not quite 60/40, maybe closer to 70/30. We have not been, since the COVID shutdown, we have not been in the Chatsworth office at all. But we've been dealing with all their phone calls and all their emails, things like that online. Heather is the admin person in Chatsworth. She's very good, very knowledgeable. So she's been very useful. And the new system we have has been excellent through this whole process, the COVID shutdown, and really invaluable in all our being able to work from home and all our that type of thing. So it's really worked out well. I believe the agreement, I've talked to Chatsworth, they're happy about it. I think there is we have had some concern over the not being able to get an inspection exactly when they like it, but we do have a huge area and we do the best we can to make everybody happy, but not everybody's going to get their inspection exactly when they want it, but we do the best we can.
Yeah, so that was my other question. Like, are we meeting the demand for inspections? That was one of my questions, and you sort of answered that. My other thought was, given that we have a subdivision on the go, and well, actually more than one, we have a couple others on the fringes around West Grey, and potentially another one coming up. Should we be looking at maybe reaching out and going on our own based on the demand that's going to come forward in the near future? What are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, CBO Shipwreck, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure exactly how that demand is going to play out. There's been a lot of talk, and it'll be interesting to see how many number of units come through. They're not going to meet their expectation for this year now. I believe some of that is COVID related, some of it's not. It'll be interesting to see in the future what their numbers look like, and it's something that we can assess maybe at the end of the year. Really, what budget-wise, what Chatsworth brings to the table, is about 3/4 of the salary of one inspector. So we have to look at budget-wise. If we're looking at taking Chatsworth off the table, how do we pay for that other inspector? Do we need that other inspector? It's sort of all, if we want to keep the same staff and keep the same and, continue to do the same amount of work in the same municipality, it's going to be difficult. I foresee that the building permit fees would have to go up if we take Chatsworth off the table. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't work out to exactly, one full person. So it's hard to, it's very difficult to hire somebody part-time or a half, to sort of cover half of the amount of work, that's very difficult. So you try to create enough work for an even number of people. And we're doing that through Chatsworth, I believe, that helps the whole system. And it, definitely helps Chatsworth out because they don't have, the capacity to hire one full CBO either for their municipality. So I believe it helps both municipalities, and I think it's working well. And
I just want to,
the legislature,
yeah,
sorry.
Sorry, I'll wait till you're done. I apologize.
That's okay. The legislative requirement is 48 hours for an inspection. And so if somebody called me today and asked for an inspection, we have to perform that inspection before the end of the day on Thursday. So we have all of today plus 2 business days. 95% of the time we are doing inspections the day they ask for it or the next day. So if they called today, we would do the inspection either today or tomorrow. So right now we're doing inspections Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in West Grey and Tuesday, Thursdays in Chatsworth. If somebody has a special request or if somebody needs an inspection, particularly for footings and septics, seem to be the ones where they need them in a certain time. We will perform those inspections like on a Tuesday and Thursday. The inspectors are driving from West Grey. We all live down this way anyway, so we're all driving up to Chatsworth to do an inspection and driving back through the municipality anyway. So we have performed all the inspections that people have asked for the next day, and legally we're not required to do them for 2 days, and we've almost always do them the next day.
Well, thank you, CBO Shipwreck, for that clarity. I too was going to just mention something on the time frame and the turnaround time once a request for an inspection has been in, and the time frame that your building department gets out for those inspections. Monday, Wednesday, Friday here, Tuesday, Thursday in Chatsworth, but you also have the ability, and if the timing permits, that you're able to do inspections in West Grey on those Chatsworth Day if there's an ability. Your customer service level is incredibly high, and I do appreciate that. I just wanted to add that in, and then go back to Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Carl. Yeah, it's just something I think we should monitor, especially going forward with the amount of building. I know right now, the builders are a little frustrated that they can't do as much as they want to do, and that's not necessarily your problem. It's just the fact that there seems to be a big demand, I think, is what's going on, and they're having a hard time keeping up. So, yeah, I'd say we just monitor it and see where it goes. But thank you for your comments there.
Very good. Anything else, members of committee, please? I'm not seeing any hands, so I am going to call the question on the motion. All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed signify with the next mark. Okay. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. We are now moving on to item 5.3, Director of Infrastructure and Public Works. 5.31, West Grey Bridge 70 and Structure 189 Status Report. Director Sherinsky, could you please provide a presentation?
Good morning, Your Worship. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning. Please proceed.
Super. Essentially, in summary, since July the 7th, basically both Bridge 70 and Bridge 189 have been closed. Essentially, the decking on Bridge 70 is in advanced stages of decay, and in certain places, the bridge decking is very, very springy and flexible when you just kind of step on it. So that one was closed, and attached I have engineering inspections for both of those structures. Essentially with 189, that one was brought to my attention through regular OSIM inspections, which are performed every 2 years. And essentially, that structure has got a lot of cracking and movement in the structure, like on the abutments, the decking, etc. And so as well, close that one to the public as well, because when concrete fails, it fails very instantaneously. There's no bending or sort of warning, if you will. And as you can see in the inspection photos attached, you can readily see that it's in rough shape. So essentially, both of those structures will remain closed, the engineer's recommending as well that those remain closed until they are repaired, and that essentially, both of these structures should be considered at budget for the 2021 budget and so forth to take on the repairs and or rehabilitation. In the report here, I've also included, which it didn't get attached to the report, and I apologize for that. However, I've made a structure priority list that was provided to me by WSP Engineering, and it is there for your reference. And I've referenced in that list where the two structures are, essentially I can take any questions that council may have with respect to the condition of these two structures. This is an information report and it's here for your consideration.
Thank you for that. So first, we're going to our clerk to read the motion. I'll look for a mover and seconder and then ask if there are any questions.
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole receives the report IPW-West Grey Bridge 70 and Structure 189 status report for information.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion? We're just waiting for Councillor Townsend's mic to be unmuted, and then I'm going to ask Councillor Hamilton if she's seconding it, so if you get ready with her mic as well, please.
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, yes. I second.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Hergert? We'll get Councillor Hergert's mic unmuted. Councillor Hergert, please, question?
Yes, thank you very much. As it relates to, I'll just take N70 is our bridge priority 9 on the list that was included by Vans. And first, to begin with, I was curious if this structure priority list will be included in the minutes of the agenda or not.
So you're looking if there's attachments to the minutes. I will have our clerk respond to that question.
Okay.
Clerk Scharbeck.
Through you, Your Worship, attachments to reports wouldn't generally be attached to the minutes as well, but they are available in the agenda package and can certainly be retrieved at any time by members of the public or council. If they're not easy to find in the agenda package as an attachment to a report, anybody can certainly request that. There's some construction going on in the hall here that might be a little bit loud. Anybody can certainly request that of the clerk's office or actually Director Stawinski
So the
himself.
list will not be included in the minutes, but there's other options for it. I wonder if you could just clarify that again, because we did have some construction interference there.
Right, through you, Your Worship. The list is available as an attachment to the report on the website in the agenda package. Through the HTML package posted on the website, it's very easy to click on the director's report and the attachments to the report. If it's not easily found, or if somebody doesn't have access to the internet, they can certainly call in and we can make that list available in any format they require, whether that's a member of the public or a member of council. They can call the clerk's office or they can call the director himself for that report.
Thank you for saying that again. I appreciate it. Councillor Hergert.
Yeah, so my question is really that it was not in the agenda package. It came as a separate email. So I'm curious how we will get this structure priority list included. You mentioned it was in the HTML. Well, it should match the PDF. So will we be adding it to the agenda of discussion today?
Clerk Scharbeck.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, Councillor Hergert, that is correct. The attachment was not originally included in the agenda package. It was missed as an attachment to the report. And that's why you did receive that email with it on its own. And if the agenda package on the website has not been updated, it certainly will be before we're done our meeting today. So that's a good point. It wasn't, it should have been included in the original package. It was missed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
We'll get it done,
we
right?
will definitely add it.
Okay, wonderful. So now my question is to our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works. We're talking about bridge number 70 on this list that was supplied, the structure priority list, mentions that N70 is priority number 9, but the estimated cost of rehabilitation is at a low number of $200,850. When we actually get the timber deck rehabilitation, just the deck replacement, it's $323,000. So I'm pretty sure these may have been based off of numbers like 2 years ago when that bridge rationalization study was done. But if there is something I'm missing, can you tell me how we get from the $200,000 now today we go to do the work and it's $323,000 just for the deck replacement?
Director Swinski?
Through you, Your Worship. There's to answer the question succinctly, the inspections were performed by one engineering firm, WSP, and in those cost estimates are the construction costs only for the structure itself. And essentially, the most recent bridge structure inspection report you've received is done from a second firm, and their costs are the total project cost to replace the deck on Bridge 70.
Okay, so might we find that nearly all of these estimated costs of rehabilitation may be significantly less than what it actually is when we get to the work?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm fine to leave this and take this up as a whole discussion of bridges. Thank you very much, Director.
Councillor Hutchinson, please. We will unmute your mic.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Councillor Hutchinson, yeah. Well, actually, I thought that was sort of the point here, that we were going to have a bit of a discussion on this. So I have some questions, if I may.
Ask your questions.
So first of all, I'd just like to make a statement that right now we have 5 bridges closed, as my calculations. 3 of them just recently. So I'm presuming that we're going to repair those 3 that are closed recently to a cost of about $900,000. Is that sort of the direction we're going there, Director?
Director Swinski?
Well, through your worship, essentially Bridge 17, which was closed earlier on, sorry, let me just back up. Yes, if you're going to add the cost of repairing Bridge 17 and Bridge 70 and Bridge Structure 189, and you were going to add them all up, the total would be $900,000, approximately that amount of money. However, the repair for Bridge 17 is planned to occur this year. The other 2 structures would have to be, or would likely be funded through the 2021 capital budget.
Mm-hmm. Does that provide clarity, Councillor Hutchinson?
Okay, yes, that's true. So on our list too, we also have Bridge 28 on the 2nd of Glenelg, which is going to be replaced, which we have funding for. I just wondered with that one, do we expect to put any money towards that bridge, or is it totally covered between the provincial and federal grant?
Through your worship, we have allocated some money to that structure this year. We have a portion of the funding in our budget, and we will be responsible for a portion of the funding between the provincial government and the federal government. And the environmental assessment process is underway for Structure 28.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, so given that according to our priority list, like the top 3 bridges, I'm just trying to look here now. We aren't really planning on doing anything with the top 3 priority right now, but they're still holding up. I just wonder, like, for example, the first one there, G38 or Glenelg 38, there's 2 bridges close together there, and I'm just wondering, like, have we looked at, or are we going to look at replacing some of these small bridges, cement bridges, with culverts? Like, can we make some savings there by dropping in a huge, whether it's plastic or metal or whatever, culvert? Because some of them are not that big. I'm just wondering, are we looking at that at all?
Through your worship, every structure that we look at that is a bridge, I am undertaking to replace that structure with the most economical conventional construction methodology available. So to answer your question, if we can replace it with a large corrugated steel culvert, and the SVCA and permitting, et cetera, will allow that, and under engineering standards and so forth and practices that we can, that is a viable option, then by all means, I will recommend that to council to try to save some money and to achieve the same outcome, but with a lesser expensive construction.
Right. So for example, the north line there, like Bridge 38, right close together, there's 2 steel bridges. One's an overflow. So to me, it makes sense to put a culvert in as an overflow, especially when it's probably 75 to 90% of the time it's dry, nothing happening there. So you get a little bit of flooding in the springtime.
Sir Hutchinson?
Yes.
I've just been alerted by the clerk that we're getting beyond the scope of this report.
Okay.
And it's not in its totality on our bridges. I do apologize for interrupting you, but I'm just getting sort of like a point of order from the clerk, if you will.
Okay.
I'm wondering if you could possibly save that type of question for our discussion on bridges.
Okay, and so when are we planning on that?
Well, we do that through budget deliberation, but also note that our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works will be bringing that asset management plan to a future meeting. So that's when that discussion will take place.
Okay, so we're going to discuss bridges at that point and not now.
That's right.
Okay, can I just throw in one more comment then, just to go along with this, something that the director can maybe bring forward. I think in the future, we need to make a priority in terms of, we've talked about closing bridges versus fixing bridges. And my comments are, we need to make a priority list, or criteria list of what we need to see in order to decide whether we're going to close a bridge or not. Like, for example, number of people that live on that road, what's the traffic count, and so on. So just something to keep in mind when we look at whether we fix a bridge or whether we close it.
I completely agree, and I know our members of council are of similar direction. I do want to say that our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works is preparing a report, a comprehensive report dealing with asset management of our bridges and culverts that we will be able to address in terms of time frame, priority setting, and also fitting in with our budget cycle as well. So I just
okay, so yeah, so we don't have a time that we're actually getting this asset management plan coming to council.
Well, I have
Sorry, I'm missing your audio's not working very
good. Oh, I appreciate it. I do have a time frame, but I'm going to ask our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works if he could provide a time frame when this information is coming forward. Director Sherinsky.
Through your worship, I would submit that I would need a few months to put this together. As it relates to our there's a lot of documents here that have been requested by council and would need to be considered and coordinated, etc. Like all of the bridge rationalization studies and the various reports that have been derived from that study, as well as our asset management plan. So I would submit, I would have this prepared for October or November in that area, and then that would actually have it prepared for budget consideration.
Well, thank you, Director. I was just confirming with our CIO in terms of October, November for that. There's a lot of work. I know you and your staff have been undertaking that work. There is an asset management plan, a priority listing, synthesizing our bridge studies, as well as the information that this council has brought forward on various meetings. So we're looking at a time frame of October, November, that we would have that report, and also that it will develop a plan. We're on the way to have that plan. We had staff needing the necessary time to assess and research the information, put it all together in a comprehensive report for this council to, put a report together or to approve a report and a pathway forward, and one that will fit in with our budget deliberations. Councillor Hutchinson, you still have the mic.
Yeah, it's just, I just feel that there's a sense of urgency here, considering that we've closed 3 bridges so far this year. Our bridges are falling down around us, and I do think that we need to push forward and decide whether we're going to fix them or not, and get going on that. So I agree. Like the asset management is a big thing coming forward. I just think the bridges are sort of our top priority, and let's move forward on that.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor?
That's good.
Great. Councillor Townsend, then Councillor Hergert. To the motion. Yes, you have your mic now available.
Thank you. First of all, we do have the rationalization bridge study to supplement this particular report, but they don't seem to come out in the same priority order if I do it based on bridge ranking. So in order to understand how that's happening, I wonder if the director can explain how we link one to the other before I make my comments.
Director Sherinsky, please.
Your worship, just for clarification, Councillor, is that so you're saying that the overall structure priority list is different than that of the rationalization study priorities?
If I just use it by overall ranking, right, it seems to come out in a slightly different order than what's here.
Yes.
I don't know if you found the same thing or not, if I'm missing something.
They are, because essentially the engineer as well is essentially establishing, like when this list was provided, the priority is based on the urgency of recommended work, further priority given to structures of higher overall importance for traffic flow through the municipality, and further to those with high replacement value, where rehabilitation may still be economical. So there's the prioritization that was established back when the rationalization study was given to council. This list before us is an updated list, if you will. The OSIM inspections since the rationalization study are ongoing. So as those OSIM inspections are ongoing, this list is going to continue to change. So when this list gets provided, even in October or November, there will likely be some changes in priority of those structures. So, and as well, when structures fail, like we've unfortunately experienced over the last month or so, then that significantly changes the priority. However, that's based on and this is where we get into the complexities of a plan. That's why there's a bit of a difference there, Councillor.
Okay, thank you very much. My comments are related to this report, and sort of, it's a little different than the approach you've taken in the past. For example, when you came to budget deliberations for 2020, the first thing you did was point out the bridges 38 and 44 were going to happen. We had bridge 28 under grant. And if you look at those, 38 and 44 were 1 and 2 on this list, so that was a great suggestion. And 28 was number 5. So again, it's addressing the things that, you know, were upfront and had the biggest issue. But then when you came later in the budget cycle, you then said, wait a minute, 46 has a problem, which was also number 6. And so we replaced the work that was going to happen on 38 and 44 for 46. And then 17 happened, and 17, by the way, is number 10. So now we decided that we'd only do half of 46 this year in the engineering portion, but we'd fix 17. And that was the last recommendation. But the point to note is that we started at point 1, and you've explained how you've moved along. This report just says that your recommendation now would be to replace, to rehabilitate or do something that in the way of work to reopen 70, which is number 9 on the list, which now means we've forgone 1, 2, 6 that we're no longer going to be working on, or are we? And then we also have a recommendation to rehab 21, which is the structure 189. And again, I don't understand how we do that if we don't have the money, and the impact of now abandoning the other ones, because we can't do it all unless we're able to find other funding. But I don't see that in your report. It's strictly on the state of these bridges. So my question is, are you coming to council, having got some feedback here, with a recommendation of how we take what we've already approved, adjust it or whatever, to look at 70 or 89, or how to include them in that overall mini plan, if you will, that we already have in process?
Director Shorensky.
Those are all great questions. First of all, I'll try my best to get through all of them. The last question you asked, I will in my report with respect to aligning the structures with our asset management plan. I will bring back to council a plan to address the questions that you've asked about, replacing a bridge that's further down on the list instead of replacing and fixing the number 1 bridge. When structures fail out of priority, in a perfect world, they would fail according to the list. But in reality, they do not do that. So what ends up happening now is a reactive consideration must be made for a structure that needs rehabilitation because it's deteriorated to the state that it's in. So at best, at this point in time, this prioritization list that's before us, any one of the top 10 bridges can be repaired. You could pick any one of them and go. They're all in that state of a condition that if you do 3 before 1, we're still moving forward. So I just wanted to say that when I come back in the fall with a report, I'll make every effort to put together a recommendation to council as to how to approach the bridge repairs. As far as funding the bridges, so far this year that I'm aware of, we are underway with the Lance Bridge, which is structure 28. and we've funded the, most recently have funded the repair for Bridge 17 and the ongoing engineering for 46. And we've received some connecting link funding for the rehabilitation of the Garifraxa Street Bridge. Those are the only bridges that I'm aware of at the moment, and that we do have money allocated toward. But as far as these two structures, again, that would be for, I'm recommending that they be repaired. However, that would be a deliberation for council during the budgetary process.
Okay, Councillor
Thank you.
Thompson,
I
anything
wasn't
further?
trying to put you on a spot to come up with all the answers today.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I was just asking, when you come forward, will you consider that? And obviously, you're responding in the affirmative, which is great. And I guess I wasn't 100% clear whether you were suggesting we do it now or next year. And I think doing it as part of the budget deliberation is the right approach. And I thank you for that. Thank you very much. That answers all my questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Councillor Herger, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to take a 2-second here and say that there's a notice of motion regarding bridges and asset management that will be taken up at a future meeting here shortly. And from the sounds of it, Councillor Hutchison, it sounds like we need to get these fixed up faster, and I agree completely. So I'll look forward to making time to discuss and receive the asset management 2.0, as well as review of these rationalization studies and the updated OSAM inspections. But I think that we are also looking for financing options. These bridges are going out of the ability to use faster than we can allocate money. So I'll be looking forward to all of the discussion about bridges. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shea, please.
Councillor Shea, I'd just like to sort of echo the sense of urgency that the last couple of speakers have identified. With Bridge 70, the rationalization report said that the original one from 2019 said that rehabilitation was not an option, and that replacement or closure were the two most viable options. So I just thinking if we're going to lean towards closure with this bridge, I think we should have that discussion earlier than later, and save the director the effort of preparing a report on rehabilitating something that can't be rehabilitated, or replacing something that is too expensive and too low a priority to replace. So I thought we might have that discussion here, because this bridge is on the agenda. And so I don't think and this is a committee of the whole, so I don't think it's outside of the scope of this. Director, would you be willing to comment on the option of closing this bridge permanently?
Through your worship, everything I've prepared and everything that I've written essentially is to keep bridges open, and prepare costs to repair them so that they can still be used. In this situation with Structure 70, the recommendation would be to repair the deck, replace it with another wooden deck, perhaps with some other a wearing surface or something to that effect to make it last longer. But it would basically reinstate a 5-ton bridge that that the general public could use. The farmers would not be able to use the bridge legally with that heavy equipment, nor would we be able to get commercial vehicles over that bridge, etc. In all likelihood, because they would be over 5 tons. However, you raise a good point, Councillor Shea, and if the bridges are going to be considered for closure, what I would like from council, the direction I would like from council is to, if that is in fact the case, then I will in everything that I do moving forward, if that is the consideration that council wishes to discuss, then I'll provide the costs to close the bridge as well as keep it open. Because just because bridges are closed, there is still a liability that council has with a bridge that is closed. And if the intention is to never open the bridge again, then our recommendation would be to decommission the bridge, and then we would have to budget for decommissioning the bridge, because there is definitely going to be costs and environmental assessments and demolition costs to remove the bridge. And so if that is the direction of council, then by all means, I will undertake that with my reports moving forward.
Councillor Shea.
I would appreciate that. And I also think that I think it's realistic of us to include closure as one of the options when we're looking at bridges. We looked at our overall bridge liability and our budgeting and realized that if we were to keep everything open at the standards that they are currently, we would be spending like an astronomical amount every year for the next, into the foreseeable future. Like $5 million a year or something like that, way more than we can afford. So unfortunately, I think we have to include closure as an option when we're considering these. So I would appreciate that. Thank you.
So Director Sherinsky, when you look at the funding or the cost for decommissioning, would you also look at the ongoing cost for ensuring that our risk is reduced? So it's not just removing it could be totally removal of the bridge, or it could just be the closure of a bridge. So would you be able to, in your reports, articulate that both in a description, but in a financial perspective?
Absolutely, Your Worship. I'll make sure that that's added in there, because there is, that's one component that in general, I don't believe we have very soundly covered off, is the ongoing risk of leaving structures in place that are closed and so forth. So I'll make every effort to include those figures in my report.
Perfect. I'd appreciate that. Councillor Shea, is there anything further?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Hamilton then, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. And I actually, Councillor Shea, I think you've asked the question I wanted to ask. So thanks for that. So just for further clarity from our director, the structure priority list 2020 that we have today, this list is about the urgency of a recommended list. Is that correct? That's how the priority is set?
Through Your Worship, this priority list is essentially put together from the OSIM inspections, the most recent ones, and it's put together based on the urgency. Ms. Hemstock has been to many meetings with council with respect to bridges, and so she has an understanding of what council's urgencies are with respect to some of these structures. So so she's essentially, that's how she's prepared this list.
Okay, thank you. And so perhaps further to Councillor Shea's question about having those original reports that did speak about potential closures, having that information merged onto this list in some way. Like I went through with a pencil and cross-referenced it with the other reports and wrote a little C beside those bridges that the engineer said council could consider for closure, and having that kind of information in the same table, you know, some of those recommendations that came out of the reports, I think would be really, really helpful if there could be another column that would just say potential closure, potential rehab based on those reports that we've already received. I note that the first 12 bridges in the priority list, 5 of them were recommended by the engineer for closure. If council were to adopt that in full, that really changes the list. So I think having some sort of cross-reference to those reports would be helpful. And it sounds like, Director, that as you're working towards putting together a consolidated report, those considerations will be integrated, is my understanding.
Director
Any
Shursky?
comment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I
you're
wasn't
quite
sure if that
welcome.
was a question or if that was, my apologies. So I thank you for those comments, Councillor Hamilton, with respect to the previous studies. So in the fall, when this report comes forward to council for consideration, I'm sensing that every councillor has so far brought this morning different concerns and different considerations and so forth, with ultimately making decisions as to whether a bridge remains open or closed. The studies essentially were brought before council. However, they have never been endorsed by council. That's not a criticism. That's just there's a lot of information that council has been brought, or a lot of information that has been provided to council, different priority lists, different studies. So moving forward, when I come back in the fall, I'll make every effort to take all of those considerations and try to come up with something that more closely represents a plan moving forward, and so that it would help and assist council with their decisions. I'm just listening and observing, the different comments and concerns, and I'm hoping that is the will of council, and if so, I would appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Councillor Hamilton, anything further?
Well, thank you, Director. And yeah, I don't think I made that sound like a question. So thank you for answering. And so I guess, Director, I'm just looking, is there something more specific you need from council? You mentioned reports not being endorsed, or is there more specific direction that would bring some clarity or just help with the process forward? So that's a question to you, Director.
At this point in time, I don't need anything further from council. I was just making some observations, and
okay.
from what I've gathered so far this morning, it's great that council is very involved with this, and that they're researching, that they're reading and looking into bridges and the way that they affect our community and our lists and engineering reports, etc. So moving forward, so that we're all working off of the same plan and the same goals, etc. I think I have enough to come away from this meeting this morning to bring a report to council for their consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Yes, our Director Shursky has been working on this for quite some time, and ensuring that he has all the data and strategy and information that we need to put something forward, and it will dovetail with our upcoming budget deliberations, and certainly support our ongoing budget deliberations. Councillor Hutchinson, I recognize you. I can double check you with the clerk before I give you the mic. Pardon me? Can't hear me. Okay, thank you for letting me know. Do you have that ability now? Okay, I just want to say our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works has been working on a report for some time. He's been looking at the data and providing options for strategies for us to deal with our infrastructure of our bridges and culverts for some time. And he has been synthesizing the information of the bridge studies and all other resources available to him. So I'm pleased that the October-November timeframe for the unveiling, if you will, of his strategy report that our council can consider as our roadmap forward, I think is timely. But we also lended him the opportunity to be Now, Councillor Hutchinson, I just want to say to you that each time a member of council has been talking since you, I've been double checking with our clerk and our CIO to make sure it's been in scope. So know that I've been keeping an eye on for that. You have the mic now, Councillor. Please go ahead, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think I heard all of that. Your mic's keep out, but anyways,
I apologize.
just a last comment. Just noticed on the list that one of the areas on some bridges further down, we have some costing for in-house replacement, and I think that's part of the solution. If we can use in-house to replace bridges or fix bridges when they're looking at $400,000 or $500,000 compared to $100,000, I'd say that's something to keep in mind. So that's something that hopefully the director will continue to look at, especially if we're replacing an old cement bridge with a steel culvert, or and we can do it ourselves. I think that's a big way of saving some money. So just a comment there.
Thank you. Can you hear me now, Councillor? I just want to double check.
Yeah, you can, but it just
Okay.
keeps fading out and in and out for some reason. I don't know what's going on there.
Were you able to hear, I'm just going to use you as a benchmark, were you able to hear that our director has been working on a report for some time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and then you went on to say something about, I know something about my second comment, and
oh, yeah.
I don't know what that was.
Oh, and what I was saying is that I was checking with our clerk and CAO to make sure that the comments were in scope of the report. So
Right.
I just wanted you to know I've been paying attention to that.
Okay.
Thank you. And members of council and staff and citizens listening in, I do apologize for the audio on my mic. I will have that, it's an ongoing improvement today, but I will have that certainly corrected. Councillor Shea, please. As I yell into the mic, I apologize. Councillor Shea.
Thank you. It's Councillor Shea. So on that point about scope and the October-November report, Clerk Sharbak, could we, at the meeting when that report is going to be presented, set aside a minimum of, say, 2 hours to discuss this issue? The Director of Infrastructure has pointed out that Council has not endorsed previous reports, and I do feel like we have sort of been putting off decision-making on some of these awkward, difficult decisions, and that I think we need to have a full and proper conversation. And I don't want to have that report come to an October, November meeting and then be told that, you know, we're either out of time or we're out of scope in discussion of the report. Is that a reasonable request, Clerk?
Please.
Thank you, Cody. Through you, Your Worship. Absolutely. I think the bridge discussion is very important to come as a fulsome discussion with all of the information at the same time. And I know a lot of information has come before to council, but I think perhaps a review of that with all of those pieces coming together at the same meeting, and with meeting time dedicated specifically to a fulsome discussion on bridges and an overall bridge plan is really important. I know that Councillor Hergert has also noted the importance of this overall discussion. And my understanding is that there will be a committee of the whole meeting at some point in time that council has the opportunity to direct that special topic for committee of the whole. And it may, Councillor Shea, be something to consider for that committee of the whole, perhaps not having these regular business reports of staff coming to that meeting. They could go directly to a council agenda and free up a future committee of the whole meeting for those special discussions that need to happen before council heads into budget deliberations. That would be something to think about. And I recommend just having perhaps council address that at the August 4th meeting.
That sounds like a great idea. I would get behind that entirely. You said that we should do this at a committee of the whole at some point. I just want to reaffirm, you mean at some point in October or November?
Thanks. Through you, Your Worship. Yes, Councillor Shea, I think as soon as time allows to gather that information and present it in a comprehensive way. I think these sorts of discussion need to happen prior to the budget deliberations, so there's a good understanding of the current information and some thoughts given to a plan forward. And then the budget deliberations will follow through with putting the money to that plan. So yes, in the near future, not the distant future. Does that clarify?
I would rather you said October or November, but I will.
Sorry.
I will.
Yes,
let that go and just trust that this will happen sooner than later.
and through you, Your Worship, that would be at council's direction, which meeting, and
But we do have identification from our Director of Infrastructure and Public
Yes.
Works that the item is coming that October-November timeframe in advance of budget deliberations. So
right, so it's perhaps on August the 4th, council could fine tune that timing. Does
Okay,
that
thank
help?
you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
anything further, Councillor Shea?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Hergert?
Yes, thank you. I obviously look forward to a plan. It seems like we have a list here we'll have to organize around close or keep open. But as we talk about even keeping open or the cost of closing, I think we need to have some financing options available as well. I think how are we going to know what we can afford if we don't do that research? So I think, yes, it's obviously important to figure out which bridges to keep open or how much they cost to close, but also to know the financing tools that we have available. So I would be looking for that as part of a whole report. And I'm anticipating, I would love to see earlier than that. And I don't know if more resources need to be poured into Director of Infrastructure and Public Works area so that we could accomplish this prior to getting right deep into budget of every department. So I'm looking at more of an August or September. Is that even a possibility from our director?
Okay, so I'm hearing from our clerk that she's asking council to address this at the August 4th council meeting. So, I mean, our director has identified that he's able to do this comprehensive report, October, November. You're suggesting pushing it forward. Our clerk is saying, she's suggesting that council address this at the August 4th meeting. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you too. Anything further?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, appreciate that. Clerk Sharback, could you please read the motion that was moved by Councillor Townsend and seconded by Councillor Hamilton? Oh, wait a minute. Councillor Townsend, you have a thumbs down. Can you elaborate?
Yes, I can. I could not hear what I believe the clerk may have been saying.
Okay, thank you. I am asking the clerk to read the motion that was moved by Councillor Townsend, yourself, and seconded by Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Clerk Sharback, could you read the motion?
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hamilton, is that Committee of the Whole receives the report IPW-West Grey Bridge 70 and Structure 189 status report for information.
All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. I will begin. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hamilton, yes.
Counselor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Counselor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. We are now, if you could clear your dashboards, including myself. We are now moving on to the final report of our agenda, item 5.4. It's from the Chief Administrative Office, 5.41, COVID-19 Municipal Operations Update. Before I move this over to CAO Johnson, I do want to mention that I've had verbal updates either on council or committee of the whole meetings, as well as updates to our members of council. You've received the updates from Dr. Era and also updates from our provincial government. On another note, members of committee, I want you to know that I have invited Savannah Myers, who is Grey County's Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Culture, to attend one of our meetings. I have asked her to make a presentation regarding Grey County's resiliency and recovery plan. That's my little update. Madam CAO, please provide an update on your report.
Good morning, Council, and thank you, Madam Mayor. You'll have before you the third installment of a operations update. I'm hoping that you note that there's been a lot of activity since the May report. Things are opening up. We're taking a slow approach. Everything that we're doing comes with a COVID management plan, including our summer camps. Mr. Hewlett's here to help me with any questions you may have regarding the recreation. Primarily, the biggest activity that we are seeing in the way of opening up our community is through recreation and some of those opportunities. Economic Development Committee has had a couple of meetings already, so very productive in that regard as well. Looking forward to our public information evening on the Community Improvement Plan, which is scheduled for August 12th, or perhaps it's the 11th, sorry, August 11th. The committee's meeting the very next morning for a recap. Those are the two important dates in my August calendar so far. So I'm happy to take questions if there's anything further.
Thank you for that. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the motion? And then I'd be looking for a mover and seconder. Unmuted.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Committee of the Whole receive the report COVID-19 Municipal Operations Update 3 for information.
Is there a move before this motion? Councillor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Counselor Hutchison, yes, I move the motion.
Is there a seconder for this motion? And if so, a check mark. Yep. Councillor Townsend, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm seconding the motion.
Questions now, beginning with Councillor Hergert, then Councillor Hutchinson, and then Councillor Townsend. Councillor Hergert, please.
Thank you. Looking for just an update about how our summer camps are running, if there's any concerns, how we are for capacity, if there's lots of room for capacity, or we're good. We're in good shape.
Supervisor Hewlett, please.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Our uptake on our summer camp to start was quite slow. However, our registrations did pick up. Last week, we did max out our one cohort, and moving into the rest of the summer, I have a few spots here and there, but I have a number of parents who are interested for the rest of the summer. So I am quite happy with how registration is going, given the current state that we're in. In conversations with public health and with parents, all of the parents and guardians are quite receptive to the plans that we have put in place, and public health gave us a stamp of approval with absolutely no concerns. So the summer camp program is going very well.
Wonderful. High five. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councilor Hutchison. So just to further on that, how is that working, Director Hewitt or Supervisor Hewitt, in terms of social distancing and that type of thing? Because that's the big concern coming forward when we get into education this fall. How is that working?
Please go ahead, Supervisor Hewlett.
With social distancing in the summer camp, we really, I say that we built it into the kind of culture of the summer camp. So the start of the week, even if the kids have been with us for a couple weeks, every Monday morning, we start with going over camp rules and what camp will look like. And we really just built it in a fun way. So rather than, okay, everybody make a circle, we say make a fingertip circle. So everybody stands with their arms out by their sides. And I'm sitting in council chambers doing it right now, but nobody can see me. And everybody stands fingertip apart, essentially. So it's things like that. Or if we notice, and yes, the campers will sometimes kind of slip and forget, and we just say, okay, fingertips, and everybody does it. So it's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So yeah.
So games and that type of thing come a bit of a challenge when you're trying to avoid contact, right?
Actually, not as much of a challenge as you would think. A lot of the games that we do play in camp environments and rec environments already have a lot of that distancing involved, just because you don't want kids to be all over each other at all times. So from a camp perspective and a programming perspective, it was actually fairly easy to do. And rather than playing, one of the favorites is tag, rather than playing tag where I have to come up and touch you on the arm or wherever, we play with the pool noodle instead. And everybody gets their own pool noodle and it keeps us apart. So
yeah. Okay, good. Thanks for doing that. My next question has to do maybe for the CAO. When can we look forward to the office being open and possibly even meeting face-to-face in terms of council?
Madam CAO, please.
Yes, and thank you for the question, Councillor, through you, Madam Mayor. We have just received our shipment of plexiglass screens, which seem to be a hot topic or a hot commodity these days. So we've got to arrange for installation of those screens, and we've got a shipment of masks here, cleaning supplies. I am working with the facility manager for the Durham Arena, Mr. Murray, on a enhanced or an elevated cleaning system, because we really only have staff are responsible for their own work areas, but the high touch points, we really only have custodial services once a week. So we've got to get a schedule in place to make sure that is taken care of. We we will be exploring some sort of managed opening system that may include opportunities for the public to book an appointment as a first step. We don't know that we have the reception space to keep everybody safely 6 feet apart. So, August is when the tax bills are due. So we really want to make sure that we've got everything in place to keep public safe as well as staff. Regarding council coming back into chambers, that's another, I need to put my thoughts to that, because we really need to make sure that we can maintain that distancing. It's really uncomfortable to speak on a Zoom meeting with a mask. So there's a few logistics there. And of course, we have the option of a combination of virtual and in person. So that's something that I look forward to discussing with staff and council. So we are looking at very soon, I'd love to have this building open. We miss our customers, and I'm sure that they would like to pop in and see some of the things that have been going on. And at this point, in fact, I would like to let council know that one of the other things that's been happening here is we are making incredibly good progress on the accessibility upgrades that we received a grant for. So you'll see a few shiny new things in the building when we finally can throw the doors open. With that, if there's any other questions, or Madam Mayor, I'll turn it back to you.
I'll just mention, Councillor Hutchinson, that I have been discussing with our CAO the opportunity to open up council chambers again and what that would look like. Also, our clerk is that will address the possibility of continuing with electronic meetings. What that would look like, what are the pros and cons associated with that. So please stay tuned to that report from our clerk. Councillor Hutchinson, you still have the mic.
Just a further comment. I'm not sure if the CAO looked into the opportunity of getting supplies through Bruce Power. They're still promoting that they have a source of supplies for anything to do with COVID. So if you haven't investigated that, there's an opportunity there.
Madam CAO, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor. I was on the Bruce Power call last night, and they were very clear with the call out to municipalities and chambers of commerce, that sort of thing. So I have duly noted that, but thank you for letting everyone know.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Townsend, please. We're getting your mic. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I was also interested in knowing when we get to meet in person. So, and I wouldn't hesitate to look at potentially not using just the horseshoe, but the whole of the chamber to make that work. Maybe we just don't have guests, but anyway. The other topic I wanted to cover was the financial impact. I was surprised not to see any lost revenue. I'd be really surprised if all of our expenses related to the recreation programs we have were covered or avoided by the lack of participation or availability or even holding of the rec services. And so I wondered if that would be some point caught up so that we do understand. I realize we don't have temporary staff, but we have permanent staff that are allocated to that. So I'm just wondering if there's more to come on the financial side, particularly on the rec side.
Madam CAO, did you want to address that, or Supervisor Hewlett? What's your pleasure?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just checking to see if our treasurer is still, yes, our director of finance is still on the call. So perhaps we could go to her first and then you could fill in any blanks.
Sounds good to me.
Great, thank you.
Director Mighton, are you prepared to respond?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so we're just, as we've sort of started into the camp program, we're looking at all of those revenues. We're looking at canceled bookings, what the revenues would have been as we start to gear up for the next sort of program with the summer ice. We'll be evaluating that. We know we have lost a couple of schools, so it's the recreation side is still a moving target, but that we're still assessing and reevaluating every day. So we'll keep reporting on those as we transition through to each stage and phase of reopening and programming that we move forward.
So are we looking at a report pending?
Probably just I was not thinking of a separate report, but if we do another COVID update report, or if it's with our variance reports that we'll be doing with the next, I didn't get a chance to do it for this meeting. I'm prepping for the audit, so I just didn't get time to do it, but our next variance report will have some of that analysis as well.
Thank you for that. Before I go back to you, Councillor Townsend, Supervisor Hewlett, was there anything additional you would like to respond to?
No, I believe Director Mighton hit the nail on the head with that one. Rec is very much a moving target when it comes to our bookings and everything that's changed. As you are aware, we have most recently made the decision to slowly start opening our ice, and rentals for that were higher than anticipated. So it's very hard to tell what it will look like, and it's a moving target. So as we have updates and clarity, we will definitely pass those along. But
Sounds good. Sounds good. Councillor Townsend, you still have the mic.
Thank you. I was also wondering, and since I do know that the Director of Finance is still there, I was also wondering if there's other areas where it's still under investigation. And I appreciate the comment earlier about doing more cleaning and et cetera, et cetera. Would that require more staff and those types of things?
Director Mighton?
We're looking at sort of repurposing some of the existing recreation staff to assist with the enhanced cleaning. So it's just sort of realigning where their services might be required. But yeah, we're not looking at a new hire or anything like that. But if we have to contract it out, if there's something to that effect. But so far we've been able to kind of manage it with some assistance from the existing recreation department staff as well, repurposing them while the facilities have been closed.
Thank you. And this may be again a discussion with yourself and the CAO and Supervisor Rec. But if we repurpose people, does that cost also become a COVID expense because you could have avoided it had you not done that? And if so, how much of that is going on or has gone on?
We're not incurring, I wouldn't say, additional costs for the staff, but we haven't had to lay off any staff. There has been a little bit of movement in there, but it's not, we would have paid, without COVID, we would have paid the wages anyways. So it's not a direct increase because of COVID, but it's not that we laid off our entire recreation department during this time. We were able to repurpose them into other tasks and maintain their status.
Before I go back to you, Councillor Townsend, Madam CAO wants to provide additional comments on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director, for your answer. One thing I would also like to note for Council's information, this has been an opportunity for staff across the corporation to actually use up some vacation time that they've been carrying. So not only have we been able to, get a lot of maintenance work done and, continue building programs and all of those things that, providing the essential services that we do, we've been able to take care of some of those vacation balances that do become a liability at year end. So all in all, I'm quite pleased with the dedication of the employees and the ingenuity of finding ways to do things without incurring a lot of expense. Indeed.
Okay, Councillor Townsend, anything further?
One last comment, and that is that I was really impressed by the residents of West Grey that have been paying their taxes on time, because we haven't really got into a huge deficit in what was outstanding or overdue. So I just wanted to acknowledge that obviously people that can afford are still doing it, and I think that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that comment. I think it had to be said. And I also just want to commend our residents for adhering to the public health protocols, because everybody that participates in this positive way is keeping a very low number of community spread with regard to, here we go again with my mic. Councillor Townsend, that was a very good comment you made, and I thank you for providing it. I also want to say I too commend our citizens for adhering to the public health protocols, because with everybody paying attention to what those protocols are and acting on them, we are all contributing to very, very low community spread within our community. And I think that's extremely important. I say that as often as I can. Okay, Councillor Hamilton, and I think you are the last speaker before I will have the clerk just read the motion and call the vote. Councillor Hamilton, you have the mic.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. And Councillor Townsend asked the similar question about reduction of revenues. So thanks for asking that question. So just a quick question. Are the parks outside of the Durham area, have they been opened yet? And if not, when would we expect them to be opened?
Thank you for that good question. Supervisor Hewlett, please.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. And if I may, in respect to the parks outside of Durham here in Newstead and Ayton, as part of our reopening, we did a inspection of some of the playgrounds and noticed that a playground in Ayton and Newstead were a little bit under what we would feel comfortable opening them at. So we are in the process of doing some just regular maintenance and that sort of thing out there. So I would anticipate that they should be opening in the near future. I don't have an exact timeline, but hoping in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. I see Councillor Shea has his hand up now.
Thank you. It's Councillor Shea. Just a quick comment on resuming in-face person-to-person meetings in the council chambers. I would love to see a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting so that people who want to attend in person can, but if people want to attend by Zoom, they can do that as well. I'm really impressed by the number of people who are turning out for our Zoom meetings. And I would like to encourage that ongoing participation. So just a comment for the clerk when she's considering that. Thank you.
Thank you for that excellent comment. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. Clerk Sharbak, could you please read the motion that was moved by Councillor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Townsend?
Thank you, to your worship. The recommendation is that Committee of the Whole receives the report COVID-19 Municipal Operations Update 3 for information.
All those in favor, please signify with a check mark. Those opposed, please signify with the next mark. I will begin. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. Thank you. We are off the staff reports and we are now on to item 6, new business. Is there any new business? Councillor Townsend, you have the mic.
Thank you. This may be a topic that we can carry over to the August 4th council meeting, the two of them, but one of them is, I noticed that there is not an evening meeting in August, and normally that is not held because we are away at AMO, a significant number of councillors are, but that isn't going to happen the same way. So I wonder whether there's consideration for a second council meeting in August, which may alleviate some of our time constraints. The other one was for the AMO conference itself. We again will need some clarification on how we claim for that as far as timesheets go. And again, I'm not looking for an answer today. I'm just suggesting these are information that we will need.
Okay, I think the latter can be addressed through an email. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. Please stay tuned to an email. In terms of adding another council meeting, I'm looking first to our CAO and clerk to see if there's any agenda items that necessitate that meeting. Otherwise, it does serve as a bit of a break for the meetings. Even at county, we only have one council and committee of the whole meeting scheduled for August. So I'm wondering if that's the same approach that staff have, but I'm looking to our staff in the event that there are reports that would necessitate an additional meeting. Madam CAO, please.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I show on my calendar that August 25th is Committee of the Whole in the daytime and an evening council meeting that day. So we do, in fact, we would have one on the 4th and then on the 25th.
Okay, Councillor Townsend?
Fine, thank you. I did not have that noted, so thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a nice schedule for August. I must admit, I'm looking forward to that schedule. I know it'll be, meetings as per usual in terms of agenda items, but it does serve as a nice break. Okay, Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchison here. Just a question, sort of a follow-up. I did mention in one of our meetings lately about pushing ahead with doing the steps at the Ball Diamond, and I think we left that with someone, and I'm not sure where we are on that. Is that something that was going to happen or not? Sorry, not hearing you.
I apologize, everyone. Director Mighton, could you please respond to Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, I did have that on my list to report back on the it was removed from our 2020 budget, but I will, and it was an oversight. I missed putting it on the agenda for this committee of the whole meeting.
Okay,
But I can add that to the August 4th.
very good. Anything further, Councillor Hutchinson?
No, I was just thinking a little bit about our canceling of our funds that we put forward to our volunteer organizations and some of the requests we had. I'm wondering if that might be something that we could fit into some of the funding that the province is putting towards COVID. Like that really sort of falls under that umbrella. There may be some organizations that could have used the funding that we put on hold because of COVID. So I'm just wondering if that's something to keep in mind going forward.
Very unique question and consideration. Perhaps our...
Sorry, not hearing you, Mayor.
Oh, sorry. I was giving you a compliment, so you definitely want to hear it. I was going to say that's a very unique approach, and I think it's something that could be looked at perhaps with our next COVID update through to tie in with what our Director of Infrastructure, sorry, I did that twice today. Our Director of Finance and Treasurer could dovetail in the report from our CAO. So let's see if there's any opportunity that avails itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other new business. I'm going on to item 7, which is adjournment. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through your worship, the recommendation is that we do now adjourn at 11:22 a.m. to meet again on August 25th
August 4th?
is council.
Oh, fair enough.
So to meet again on August 25th at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair.
I do apologize for that. I was looking for clarity on that as well. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Herger?
Councillor Herger moved.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you the seconder?
Sorry, yes, I'll second that motion. Councillor Hutchison.
All those in favor, please signify with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor. Excuse me.
Councillor, pardon me. Councillor Shea, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Herger, yes.
Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. We do stand adjourned. I do want to remind everyone about tomorrow night's information session. The municipality of West Grey will host a remote community information session to provide updates on recreation, outline the new municipal alcohol policy, and explore licensing our municipal facilities. The meeting will be held via Zoom at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, July 29th, 2020. Everyone is welcome. The coordinates for this meeting are online and in our social media. I hope all can attend. Thank you very much. We look forward to our next meeting together. Thank you.